It all started on a quiet Sunday morning in suburban Ohio, where the sun spilled lazily through white-trimmed windows and the sound of a distant lawnmower hummed like background music. Emily Carter stood at her kitchen counter, cradling her favorite coffee mug, chipped at the rim but precious because it was a gift from her late mother. She watched the cream swirl into the dark coffee, a simple act that always gave her a small sense of comfort. Life, at least on the surface, was ordinary. But ordinary has a way of hiding secrets. Emily didn't know it yet, but her life was about to entangle with someone who didn't love her at all. Someone who only saw her as a stepping stone to wealth, comfort, and power. And that someone's name was Ryan Hale. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now, let us begin. Ryan Hale was everything people wanted him to be. Charming, tall, with dark hair that always seemed perfectly tousled no matter the hour. He knew how to fill a room with his presence, how to laugh at the right time, how to make eye contact just long enough to disarm you. But behind that polished exterior lay a hunger, a gnawing, endless hunger for more. More money, more status, more validation. He hadn't grown up with much. His father was in and out of jobs, his mother tired from working double shifts. Ryan swore to himself, sometime around age 16, that he would never struggle like his parents. But instead of hard work or building something honest, he found an easier route. People. He could read them, play them, mold himself into what they needed. And Emily Carter? She was his golden ticket. Emily was the only child of George Carter, a man who had built his fortune in construction and real estate. Their family owned blocks of property in Columbus, a private vacation house in Florida, and investments that Emily didn't even fully understand. But wealth hadn't spoiled her. If anything, Emily was modest. Simple clothes, gentle spirit, volunteering at the community library. She was kind in ways Ryan had never seen before. And that kindness made her blind. The first time they met, Ryan orchestrated it. He wasn't lucky. He was calculating. He knew she'd be at a charity gala her father sponsored. He knew she liked to stand by the punch table, avoiding the louder crowd. And when he walked up with his easy smile and soft voice, she melted just as he expected. First time at one of these? Ryan had asked, sipping ginger ale like he belonged there. Emily laughed, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. No, but I never quite fit in. That was all he needed. A crack in her confidence, a vulnerability. He leaned in just enough to make her feel seen. Funny, I feel the same. Maybe we could not fit in together? She smiled, and Ryan's plan was set into motion. Their romance blossomed quickly, or so Emily believed. Within 6 months, Ryan was woven into every part of her life. Sunday brunches with her father, late-night study sessions. Emily was finishing her master's in education. Even weekend trips to her favorite bookstores. He made her laugh, brought her flowers, listened when she rambled about poetry. She thought she'd found someone who loved her for her, not for her last name. But Ryan, he was already counting the dollars. Behind closed doors, he researched the Carter estate, property values, investment holdings. He rehearsed his smiles in the mirror, practiced sympathy, even pretended to care about her sick aunt just to score more points with the family. The wedding wasn't about love. It was about securing his future. And when Emily's father passed suddenly from a heart attack, leaving her as the sole heir, Ryan's greed turned into urgency. The wedding was beautiful. White roses lined the aisle of the church, candles glowed softly at each pew, and Emily looked radiant in her lace gown. Guests whispered about how perfect they seemed, how lucky Ryan was to have found such a gentle soul. But as Ryan slipped the diamond band onto her finger, his thoughts weren't of vows or forever. They were of bank accounts, vacation homes, and the empire he'd now share by law. He kissed her lips, but in his heart, he was kissing fortune. And Emily, blinded by love, never saw it coming. The first few months of marriage were smooth. Ryan was attentive, affectionate, everything Emily thought she deserved. But slowly, cracks began to show. He spent more nights working late, more weekends with his business partners. He bought expensive suits and luxury watches, brushing off her questions with practiced charm. Emily's heart ached with confusion. She remembered the man who once brought her hot chocolate on snowy nights, who read aloud to her at the library when no one else showed up. Where was that man now? She told herself it was stress, adjustment, the weight of responsibilities. But the truth was far darker. One evening, as Emily was cleaning out the home office, she stumbled across a folder Ryan had carelessly left on the desk. Inside were financial statements, withdrawals, and wire transfers, large sums of money sent to an account she didn't recognize. Her hands trembled as she flipped through page after page. This wasn't saving. This wasn't investing. This was draining. Her chest tightened, breath shallow. She wanted to believe there was an explanation. Something logical. Something that wouldn't shatter her world. When Ryan came home that night, she confronted him, voice quivering. Ryan, what is this? These transfers. Where's the money going? For the first time, his mask slipped. Ryan's eyes hardened, and instead of offering comfort, he sneered. Don't start, Emily. You wouldn't understand. Just stay out of it. Her heart cracked in that moment. The man she thought she loved wasn't just hiding something. He was hiding everything. Emily tried to ignore it, tried to convince herself it was temporary, but doubt grew like a weed she couldn't pull. She began noticing more. Hushed phone calls, unexplained absences, expensive gifts arriving at their doorstep. And then, one rainy Thursday evening, the truth came crashing down. Emily had gone out for groceries when her car broke down. She called Ryan, hoping he could pick her up, but he didn't answer. Frustrated, she called a cab and headed home. But as she walked up the driveway, she froze. Through the living room window, she saw Ryan. He wasn't alone. A woman sat beside him, beautiful, younger, dressed in a way Emily never would. And in Ryan's hands, he held Emily's grandmother's bracelet, fastening it onto the stranger's wrist. Emily's groceries fell from her arms, apples rolling across the wet pavement, her knees buckled, and tears blurred her vision. In that instant, everything shattered. But that wasn't the worst of it, because the woman in Ryan's arms wasn't just anyone. She was someone from Emily's past, someone who knew her well enough to cut deeper than anyone else. And when Emily's eyes focused through the glass, her breath caught in her throat. It was her cousin, Claire. The sound of rain tapping against the window blended with the muffled laughter inside the living room. Emily stood frozen in the driveway, her clothes damp, her heart pounding so hard she could feel it in her ears. Through the glass, Ryan clasped her grandmother's bracelet onto Claire's wrist, his smile soft, his voice low. And Claire? Her own cousin, the girl she'd grown up with, shared holidays with, whispered secrets to at family sleepovers. Claire leaned in, kissed his cheek, and laughed like she belonged there. Emily's world tilted. She stumbled backward, clutching her chest, her breath ragged. She wanted to burst through the door, to scream, to demand answers. But her legs betrayed her. Instead, she turned, leaving the groceries scattered on the wet pavement, and ran. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. Emily drove aimlessly for hours, the rain streaking her windshield like blurred tears. Her mind swirled with memories. Claire and her sharing birthday cakes, late-night talks about future husbands, Claire promising they'd never betray each other. And Ryan. His vows, his touch, the way he said she was his forever, all lies. When she finally pulled over at a quiet gas station on the edge of town, her phone buzzed. Dozens of missed calls from Ryan. A few texts, short and sharp. Where are you? We need to talk. Don't do anything stupid. Her hands shook as she read them. Stupid. That was the word he chose. Not I'm sorry, not please come home. Just stupid. Emily realized then that Ryan wasn't afraid of losing her heart. He was afraid of losing her money. The next day, she returned home silently, her face pale, her eyes heavy. Ryan was waiting. He stood in the kitchen like nothing had happened, sipping coffee, scrolling his phone. You disappeared last night, he said flatly. Do you have any idea how that looks? Emily's voice cracked. Ryan, I saw you with Claire. For a moment, his jaw tightened, but then he chuckled, shaking his head. Emily, don't be dramatic. She came by, that's all. You know how close your family is. Her stomach churned. You put my grandmother's bracelet on her wrist. He slammed his cup down, the sound sharp against the counter. You're making a big deal out of nothing. You think you can accuse me of cheating after everything I've given up to be with you? Her knees trembled. He wasn't even denying it. He was twisting it, turning the blame on her. That night, when Ryan finally fell asleep, Emily lay awake staring at the ceiling. She realized she was trapped in a marriage built on lies, in a home that no longer felt safe, with a man who never loved her. But something inside her shifted. A spark, a whisper. She wasn't going to be his puppet anymore. Days turned into weeks. Emily played along, keeping her voice soft, her eyes down, letting Ryan believe she was still under his spell. But in secret, she began to gather pieces of truth. She checked the account transfers again, this time copying down details. She looked into Claire's social media, finding pictures of expensive dinners, trips, handbags, things she couldn't possibly afford. And each time Emily saw a price tag in her mind, she thought, my money, my father's legacy, my life he's bleeding dry. One evening, while Ryan was at a meeting, Emily called an old friend, Mark, a lawyer she'd known since college. She hadn't spoken to him in years, but when he picked up, his voice was warm. Emily? Wow, it's been forever. How are you? Her throat tightened. I'm not okay, Mark. I think my husband's stealing from me, and I don't know what to do. There was silence on the line, then a steady reply. Emily, you need to get out. But first, we need proof. That was the beginning of her secret war. Over the next month, Emily worked with Mark quietly, carefully. They traced the accounts, discovered offshore transfers, even found a joint account under Ryan and Claire's names. Her chest ached each time she uncovered a new betrayal, but with every piece of evidence, her resolve grew stronger. Ryan noticed her change. You've been different lately, he said one night, eyes narrowing. Quieter. Distracted. You're not hiding something from me, are you? Emily forced a smile, her heart racing. Just stressed, Ryan, that's all. He didn't buy it. She could see suspicion in his gaze, the same way a predator eyes its prey when it senses rebellion. The breaking point came at Thanksgiving. Emily's house was full of relatives, laughter echoing down the hallways, turkey roasting in the oven. And there was Claire, sitting across the table, wearing the same bracelet Emily had seen weeks ago, smirking every time Ryan brushed her hand under the tablecloth. Emily clenched her fork so tightly her knuckles whitened. Rage burned in her chest, but she stayed silent. Not here. Not yet. But fate has a cruel way of forcing moments. After dinner, Emily overheard Claire in the kitchen, whispering on the phone. Yes, baby, she has no idea. A few more months, and we'll have everything. Then she'll just fade away. Emily's knees buckled. She grabbed the counter to steady herself, her vision blurring. They weren't just cheating. They were planning to take everything, and maybe worse. That night, Emily locked herself in the bathroom, staring at her pale reflection. Her body shook as she whispered to herself, "They want me gone." For the first time, she wasn't just heartbroken. She was afraid. She called Mark again, her voice trembling. "I think they're planning something. It's not just money. I think they want to hurt me." Mark's tone was urgent. "Emily, listen to me. You need to get out of that house. Tomorrow. Don't wait. Pack what you can and leave. I'll handle the rest." Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "Okay." But leaving wouldn't be easy. Ryan had grown possessive, watching her every move, demanding to know where she went, who she spoke to. The next morning, Emily packed a small bag, stuffing it under her bed. Her plan was to slip away while Ryan was at work. But just as she zipped it shut, she heard footsteps behind her. "Going somewhere?" She froze. Ryan stood in the doorway, his arms crossed, his eyes dark and sharp as a blade. Emily's heart dropped into her stomach. "I asked you a question," he said, his voice low, dangerous. "Where do you think you're going, Emily?" Her mouth went dry. The room felt smaller, the walls pressing in. She realized then that she wasn't just in a broken marriage. She was in a cage with someone who might never let her go. And as Ryan stepped closer, his hand reaching toward her bag, Emily's pulse thundered in her ears. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about survival. To be continued in part 3. Ryan's footsteps echoed in the silence of the bedroom as he stepped closer, his shadow looming over Emily. Her hands trembled by her sides, her chest tightening as if the air itself had vanished. She had never seen him like this. Eyes cold, jaw tense, a predator circling prey. "Answer me," Ryan demanded, his hand darting toward the small bag she'd tried to hide. "Where do you think you're going?" Emily swallowed hard, her voice barely a whisper. I I just needed some space to think. He let out a bitter laugh, tossing the bag onto the bed. Space? We're married, Emily. There's no such thing as space. Everything you have, your money, this house, even you, it's mine. Those words hit her harder than a slap. Even you. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you're hooked in and you're ready to enjoy this story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. Emily's heart pounded, but deep inside something shifted. For weeks, she had felt powerless, trapped, betrayed. But now, staring into the face of the man who had built his entire world on lies, a spark of defiance burned. She straightened, meeting his gaze. You don't own me, Ryan. You never did. His smirk faltered. Careful, Emily. You're walking on thin ice. No, she said, her voice gaining strength. You are. That night, she didn't leave. She knew if she tried, Ryan might stop her, or worse. Instead, she waited, playing the role of the obedient wife one last time. But while Ryan slept, Emily made her move. She retrieved the files she had hidden, the proof of his theft, the evidence of his affair with Claire. With steady hands, she uploaded everything to a secure folder Mark had set up for her. By morning, Ryan would no longer be in control. The next day, Emily sat at the kitchen table sipping coffee, her nerves buzzing. Ryan walked in, adjusting his tie, already barking orders. Cancel your plans today. We're meeting with an investor. He needs to see us together, power couple image, you know? Emily looked up, her face calm. I won't be there, Ryan. He froze, his eyes narrowing. What did you say? I said, Emily repeated slowly, I won't be there. I'm done pretending. I know about the money. I know about Claire, and soon, everyone else will too. For the first time, Ryan's mask cracked completely. Rage twisted his features, his voice rising. You think you can ruin me? After everything I've done for you? Emily stood, her voice steady despite the fear twisting in her gut. No, Ryan, you ruined yourself. By evening, the storm had begun. Mark filed for divorce on Emily's behalf, attaching the evidence of Ryan's embezzlement. The documents also revealed Claire's involvement, connecting her directly to the stolen funds. Ryan's phone blew up with calls, his so-called business partners suddenly silent, investors pulling out. And then, karma hit harder than Emily ever expected. The FBI knocked on their door. Ryan's face drained of color as agents stepped into the house, warrants in hand. Emily stood back, her heart racing, as they read out the charges: fraud, money laundering, conspiracy. Claire's name echoed through the hallway, her betrayal now a matter of public record. Ryan's hands were cuffed, his once polished charm replaced by fury and desperation. He turned to Emily, his voice a hiss. You'll regret this. You'll regret crossing me. But Emily didn't flinch. She met his glare with quiet strength. No, Ryan. The only thing I regret is ever believing you loved me. In the days that followed, news of Ryan and Claire's downfall spread quickly. Headlines splashed across local stations. Businessman and partner arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. Family members called Emily in shock, some apologizing for ever doubting her instincts. Claire tried to call from custody once, begging Emily for forgiveness, insisting she never meant for it to go this far. But Emily didn't answer. Some bridges weren't just burned, they were reduced to ash. At first, Emily felt hollow. Her marriage, her trust, her family ties, all shattered. Nights were the hardest, lying alone in the bed where dreams had once lived. But slowly, piece by piece, she began to rebuild. She returned to her work at the library, finding comfort in the smell of books and the quiet hum of pages turning. She started volunteering again, reading to children, her voice steady even when her heart ached. And one afternoon, sitting at a park bench watching leaves scatter in the wind, she realized something powerful. Ryan hadn't destroyed her. He had freed her from illusion, from dependency, from the cage she never realized she was in. Months later, Emily finalized the divorce. The court awarded her full protection of her assets, thanks to Mark's relentless work. Ryan faced years in prison, Claire along with him. And though the scars of betrayal would never fully vanish, Emily stood taller, stronger. One evening, as she walked through her father's old office, she found a note tucked inside a drawer, something he had written long ago. Money can be stolen, love can be faked, but character, Emily, character always reveals the truth. Tears filled her eyes, But this time, they weren't from pain. They were from gratitude, because her father had been right, and Ryan's character had been his downfall. The story didn't end with bitterness, but with hope. Emily didn't rush into another relationship. Instead, she focused on herself, her healing, her passions, her community. Slowly, laughter returned to her life, genuine and untainted. She wasn't defined by what Ryan had done to her. She was defined by how she had survived it, Poliver. And as she stood on her porch one crisp spring morning, the sun warm on her skin, she whispered softly to herself, I'm free. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine.